But I don't know if in the cemetery, if it's my father's cousins or my grandmother's cousin, my grandfather's cousins or my grandmother's cousins that are buried there. But I know Golda is buried right opposite my parents. And then Harry's family, the Gottliebs are all there too.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the Septimus side.
Well, the Septimus side you could get on the internet, can't you? Doesn't, what's her name from Texas send you all the information on the
Right, she
Septimus?
did quite a bit of work.
Yeah. My grandmother was an interesting person, though, Hinda Rivka. She was a modern woman.
One second.
We did my grandfather.
Okay, hold on a second. So okay, give me information about Hinda Rivka before we go over the
Okay.
other side.
This is the best story with Hinda Rivka is that my Aunt Ray, which is my grandmother's sister, she was very, very close to. She was a spinster.
So Ray was Hinda Rivka's sister.
Right. And Aunt Ray worked in my mother's father's tailor shop. Not tailor shop, pants factory. My mother was the bookkeeper in her father's pants factory.
Your mother, Flora.
Yeah.
Flora. She was a bookkeeper
In her father's pants factory
in
in Yosef Dov's.
Ray's.
Ray worked for my grandfather, Aunt Ray.
Ray worked for your grandfather.
Yosef Dov Septimus.
Uh-huh. Okay, Ray worked for Yosef Dov Septimus. Right, and so did your mother.
Yes. Now, the interesting part is she had a nephew that just came out of World War I.
Correct, Ray had a nephew.
Yeah, who was ultimately my
Lou.
father. And he had a job, his first job was in the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Your father's first job was at Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Yeah, after he got out of the Army. He was a bugler in the Army, which you possess, the bugle.
Right.
And he was stationed in France. But when he came out, it was very
He
funny.
went to work with
He
his-
told me the story. He went out on a date with a girl, and he must have kissed her goodnight or something. And all of a sudden, his whole shirt and everything was all black. She had dyed her hair with something. And all of a sudden, he looks down, and everything was black. So anyway, but he had interesting stories. So anyway, she thought it would be a good idea to introduce her nephew to my mom.
Your mom, who was working at the same company.
And that's how they got together.
What kind of
But
company?
it wasn't all good, because you got to realize my father came from a totally irreligious home.
Secular home.
Yeah, and my mother's family was from Williamsburg. So it was an interesting thing.
The Septimuses all lived in Williamsburg.
Right. Now it's interesting too,
One second. Yosef Dov was
Chana's
Chana's husband. Right. Okay, we got to get this. So Chana's husband was Yosef Dov. They had a company. They were from and they lived in Williamsburg.
Yes.
With all the whole mishpacha, all the
Right.
kids. And the daughter came to be a bookkeeper in the father's business.
Right.
And Ray was working there. She never got married, but she had a nephew, Lou, and she set him up with Flo.
Right.
That was how your parents met. Lou started out in the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Right.
Then what happened?
And they bought it, right after they got married, they bought a business in New Jersey, near Teaneck, I don't remember where. But this goes back, we're talking, my brother was born in 27, so anyway, it was a long time ago.
Like 25.
So they bought a business with a cousin of his in a grocery store. And the cousin had about 5 kids, and they kept pulling stuff off the grocery store and not paying. So my parents lost all their wedding gifts. My mother used to tell me this story, lost all their money in this grocery store, and they moved back to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And first they lived in Williamsburg for a little bit, and then my brother was born, and then they moved to Bensonhurst. But they lived in Williamsburg on Keep Street or South something Street. In the beginning, right in the beginning, and then they moved to Bensonhurst. And then my father got a job at, this is an interesting story. My father got a job for one of the insurance companies, one of the big insurance, being an elevator inspector.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that time, they weren't hiring Jews. And he put down...
Under religion,
I protest.
I thought that was something in the army, but okay.
No, but that was working for and they, the whole time, they got a watch from them when he retired, for all the time they thought he was Protestant. So that's the story with my father, yeah.
Okay, that was a good story. Right, so...
and then...
That's your father.
Oh, that was another interesting story.
What?
They had the epidemic, the flu epidemic, where everybody was, you could see, if you go to the cemeteries in America, in New York especially, you could see where children died from this epidemic. My mother used to tell me how my grandmother used to wash everything.
Chana.
Everything was laundered. Everything you could think of was laundered. And she didn't allow the children to go out and play during this flu epidemic. And when my grandfather came home, they lived on Hooper Street. When he used to come home, he used to take them up on the roof to get air. But she wouldn't let them out when this was going on. And every one of them survived. And you had 10 children there.
Well, hygiene, now they're starting to realize that this is real. I mean, okay, so let's talk about your grandparents. Wait, what about not only your grandparents, your great-grandparents, right?
Well, my great-grandmother lived...
You don't know your great-grandparents on your father's side.
No.
Okay, but you do know we have
Bubby Hauser.
Bubby Hauser, right?
Now she also had somebody... I think it was a Hauser living, a cousin.
So Chana's maiden name was Hauser.
Uh-huh.
Do you know any, first the Septimus side, Yosef Dov, you know anything about his parents?
No.
Okay, but we do know Chana's mother Hauser, we have that picture.
Bubby Hauser, you have it, yeah.
Okay, anything about her?
Well, I know she had...
She looked like a cool lady in that picture.
Oh, was she ever. She was angry at me because I didn't speak Yiddish. So she didn't want to talk to me. Oh yeah, and it was interesting because the two of them, Bubby Hauser and my grandmother, used to make Varenicus for Rosh Chodesh. And she would distribute it to all her children. So we all knew, so I had to go to Williamsburg from Bensonhurst to pick up the Varenicus.
I remember going to visit your grandmother. I don't remember visiting I don't think I ever met
Bubby Hauser. Well, that was a difficult. Very often we wanted a name after Bubby Hauser, but her name was Yenta. So the only one that I was named was my cousin Yocheved. It was named after.
Now, Bubby Hauser and your grandmother Chana are both buried on Har Menuchot.
Yes, but my Bubby Hauser is buried in a different place.
I know exactly where it is. I took you to her.
Yeah, but I couldn't find it when I went. I still can't find it.
It's very difficult because she's got a very small mitzvah.
Yeah. So anyway, she's buried there, And, it's interesting. My grandmother suffered from arthritis terribly. You could see in the pictures, she was really crippled, Chana. And Bubby Hazard took care of her. And every year, she went by train to Hot Springs, Arkansas for the baths. And that used to help her. She went for the winter
Right.
to Hot Springs for the bath by train.
Uh-huh.
So one time when they got off the train, by mistake, they took somebody else's luggage, and their luggage was full of pots and pans for the
Kosher food.
kosher food for Hot Springs. And they opened up the suitcase and there were gorgeous evening gowns in there. So somebody was going for something.
And wear pots and pans if they want. It's not anything. Yeah.
But every year by train, they used to go from Penn Station to Hot Springs. They used to change, but this is what they did every year.
You ever go with them?
No, the two of them used to go.
Uh-huh.
I was a kid. I was in school.
Right. So that's Chana.
And Yenta. And Bobby Hauser.
Chana. So we got the whole family tree, right?
Up there, yeah. And Chana had 10
Chana
children.
was a Hauser. Yosef Dov was a Septimus. We don't know anything about their siblings or anything.
Well, I know, I used to what was their name?
These are
my
grandparents.
Hauser my mother had two cousins, Frida and Helen Hauser. And I was trying to get in touch with the one that's doing the family tree in Texas. And she went to Argentina because I know these cousins lived in Argentina because they had a sister that lived in Argentina. And when they got older, Helen and Frida were very close to us. And when they got older, they went to live with their sister in Argentina.
So Frida and
Helen are
Helen
very
had a
simple,
sister in Argentina.
Yeah, and I don't remember her name. But I know they were trying to find them.
Okay, but the the same immigration. You know anywhere? Now, Yosef Dov was born in Europe.
Yeah. They were married here, though.
Chana was born in Europe.
Yeah, but they were married here.
They married you. Do we know? You don't know anything about the town where they come from? Anything?
I saw it. It's on.
It's on the family history there. Okay. Okay, so your mom, what year was she born?
My mother was 7 years younger than my father. So my father was born in 1900, and my mother was born in 1907.
Okay, and what number was she?
Okay, Aunt Sarah was the oldest, and then came my mother, and then came Uncle Lou. Then, I gotta write this down. You wanna stop for a minute? And then I can figure this out?